All right, welcome back. It is another edition of Inside Boxing Live. It is presented by ppv.com. I am Dan Cadobio. He is Chris Algieri, the Disney man, the traveling man. Doesn't like the Disney man nickname. Back from Albuquerque, New Mexico. We will break down Angelo Leo's breakout performance. We'll talk Vergil Ortiz, state of 154. The big turkey showing up in Vegas once again and has a lot to say about a lot of fighters out there. There's a lot going on in the boxing world. Chris, how are you? How was Albuquerque? What a call. Give us the rundown.
I'm good, Dan. I'm good. A little tired. Not a lot of sleep on Saturday night. So with ESPN, when you do those shows in the ESPN position, afterwards we do the state of boxing. So it's a late night, and you know me, I don't like to spend my Sundays in the air. So I flew out super early, slept like 2 hours that night, came home. It's good to be home. But awesome call. Excited to talk about it.
The state of boxing, which is just awesome. To those that don't watch, you should seriously start watching it because it's on. It goes right to ESPN Plus. They don't do the post-fight interviews in the ring. They go right to Sports Center. Then they come back for a second, and then they do state of boxing, which is awesome. It's like 20 to 25 minutes. It goes into the locker room, like you saw into the locker room of Lomachenko a few fights back after the Haney fight, and then you see. For this particular fight, you saw the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. You guys are all charged up. I always said, I wish boxing had a post-fight show because that's when the fans are at the most, fever pitch. And for a while, I was doing one on YouTube, and obviously not the same, but I just knew that, we can, the fans are so captivated, and they want to go somewhere other than Twitter. State of the Boxing was awesome. But Angelo Leo with the knockout, devastating. Knockout of the year. You were on the call for potentially two of the candidates for knockout of the year between that and that Robesi Ramirez knockout. Take us through the call and what you saw in there and in that moment with Tess. That's some of maybe the loudest and most demonstrative. I heard Tess. I saw your hands. You didn't move. You were that was crazy. The views and angles of that, of everything. And from our perspective with you on the call is super interesting.
Yeah, no. Let me start just fight week in general. I've called Angelo Leo's last three fights. He's on Pro Box TV. He was in no man's land. He spent 2 years out of the ring with promotional issues, managerial, contract stuff, and he's so talented. He's a former world champion. His only loss is to Stephen Coolboy Fulton, who's a fantastic fighter, and they put on a great fight. It was an awesome back and forth fight. Fulton just showed his class at that time and was able to pull away. Then Leo's out of the ring for 2 years, but he never stopped training. He's saying, I was sparring with everybody. I was working with everybody, still going to gyms. That kind of dedication is something to really, really speak on. And then he gets signed by Pro Box. We bring him on. We're very excited because this is a former world champion as a signee, that's a big deal. So, he comes and he fights on our card. He looks great. And I remember the very first time he fought on our card, he fought Palacio, a Dominican fighter who's fought everybody, tough guy. But we've never had a guy this good on our air. He's head and shoulders above everyone that's ever fought on Pro Box TV at that time. I've since obviously expanded. We got a lot of former champions who are coming now, but that was the first guy. I'm looking at him. I'm this is a different level. And he had two more good wins. Gets this fight, and listen, all week everyone was ears perked for upset alert. There was just so many things that were concluding to what actually happened, or leading to what was actually happened. And one, it's the kid's fantastic, and two, he's got super good fundamentals. And I saw it. I don't know if you watched the initial lead-in that we did, our intro. I said, watch out. His shot selection is an issue, and especially the left hook. And I said, if he can keep his fundamentals, his body punching, and his shot selection, especially the left hook, he's going to be a two-time world champion tonight, leaving the arena. And literally, that's exactly what happened. And people, we were talking about it all week. One, it was in his hometown in Albuquerque. So two, altitude, guys. People don't realize it's 5,000 feet above sea level in Albuquerque. I ran 5 miles that morning. I was dying. Didn't realize why until I remembered later. I was oh, word, altitude. And Venado trained super hard, but I don't think they were aware that it was going to make that much of an effect. So, and Leo even said in the fighter meetings, he actually trained at Santa Fe, which is even higher. So he trained at elevation to fight at elevation. It was in his hometown. He's super hungry. And then stylistically, the fight just matched up well. So there's just so many factors, of why this quote unquote upset happened. But man, what a week, what a fight. I'm so happy for the kid. It was really nice to see him. He's a really, really nice guy too. Super nice. I mean, they both are. Renado's awesome too. But man, upsetting the champion who's been dominant, and this is going to be his 5th title defense, and then getting iced the way he did, it's got to be fight of the year. Based on just the image of what we saw.
You mean knockout of the year or fight of the year?
I said knockout of the year. Sorry.
Sorry,
I meant knockout.
Well, fight of the year happened about 10 minutes later.
Right. We'll talk about that too, of course. But just the clip is amazing, crazy knockout. The guy literally falls like a dead body, like he was shot. But also just the magnitude of the fight, everything that I said leading up to this. It's a big deal.
Yeah, there's a lot of knockout of the year debates, which are fun. I said case closed. This is it. Got a little bit of pushback from fans that are like, "Hey, Lucas Body's knockout of Ashton Silva, great shot."
Cool,
was
not
not
the
a
same
title
level.
Fight.
No,
was not the same level. Anthony Joshua's knockout of Francis Ngannou. You're fighting a novice. Francis Ngannou did push Tyson Fury to the limit, but he's still a novice. There's levels. Like, you have to take into account a lot of different things when you do knockout of the year. If you're just going strictly like a punt, you can find some fight like the Dominican, which is in like a backyard, which is sanctioned, and it has some like insane knockout where the guy goes stiff. But you got to add in the elements. You have to add everything that you just explained. The fact that he was a plus 350 underdog, and the fact that it was a title fight. The fact that Luis Alberto Lopez was
I told a couple people to put money on that. By the way.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen. I had one of the best parlays in my life. This is not about me. This is not about my parlays, Chris. But parlaying Leo at plus 350 with the over 8.5 rounds of Vergil and Bohachuk made me a very, very happy man on Saturday night. And I'm happy for the people that tailed it, because there are some people that are now taking my picks and they are using my picks and they are putting their own money on my picks. That was an awesome, awesome night of boxing. From a personal standpoint, just winning the parlay is always exciting. Who cares? In reality, just a couple bucks. But Leo was a live dog. That is the KO of the year. But just going back, like, what's it like calling that type of moment?
So, I mean, we got lucky because actually the co-feature, the Delgado Flores fight was good. It was way better than expected. So it kind of like whet your palate as and you can speak to this too. You call fights as well. You get that energy going, and it's a little like a warm up. Like I was like, all right, my old gears were firing. But also very excited for this fight. Not just because it was a good matchup, and I really like watching Venado, but I've been calling Leo's fights recently, so it was like I was very, very charged up for these guys and ready for the call. And then the fight was just awesome. I mean, it was just a really, really good fight. Leo was very, very smart. He fought a really good game plan. And then, man, the way it finished, it was so shocking because we were looking at like, all right, yeah, I got Leo ahead. Very, very close, though. Very, very close. And Venado's punching super hard. He hits really hard. And Leo showed an incredible chin as well because he was taking some shots. Like some of the shots that even hitting on my shoulder by Lopez, I'm like, God, he's punching with real, real vicious intent. And then bang, the knockdown happens, and it's just like, you got Tess screaming, losing it on your side. I'm like, there's a great video of both of us going, oh, at the same time, because it was so shocking. And then, like you said, I'm sitting there, I'm watching, I'm like, this guy's not getting up. Because whenever someone goes down, especially like that, I'm looking, I'm like, all right, is there a recovery possible? And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, he's on his back, laid out, didn't even pick his head up till like 7. And
stopped the referee from counting to 9.
Crazy, which I said on air, and I got some pushback on that from people. But listen, if it's like at 8 and the guy didn't pick his head up the mat and his eyes are literally crossed, what are we doing?
It's like jump up at 8. The guy was knocked out. He hit his head. His head bounced 3 times on the canvas. And
that's not good. That post-concussive syndrome is really, really dangerous.
That was a vicious knockdown.
Vicious knockout. And then it's just like, dude, it's just a wave of emotion and energy hits you. I mean, that's another reason why I didn't sleep much on Saturday nights. Really,
I was gonna say, like, I've called MVP. I've called some fights that didn't have knockout of the year, and it's one of the hardest things is to go to sleep after you're on. Like when you're on like that, like every single word I don't know if it's the same for you, but it comes a little easier for you. But you have to. You're almost thinking about every single thing you're about to say.
Have to.
And you're on camera. You know, you got to like be so on, and you're so charged up, and then you have a fight on top of it where everyone's going crazy. It's the craziest sporting event you could possibly attend. It's different than any other sporting event, so it's really hard to like decompress after that. Like I feel like the state of boxing is like almost therapeutic in a way where you could just like talk it out.
Yeah,
and kind of like just figure it all out.
But another thing about the state of boxing, we're all so emotional because you were just like, especially after that, like it's like it's exposed, you just like blew up, and then after there's always that that reload phase afterwards, and you're just like, whoa, and then you start to really think about it, and you're right, it is therapeutic, and you start to get like very emotional, about it, and then it's all done, and you go back to the hotel. It was cool because the crew actually we all were charged up, so we kind of hung out a little bit in the common area in the hotel, and we're just kind of talking things through and got to relax a little bit before going upstairs and packing and getting ready for your flight. But yeah, I mean, what an experience.
I think it was the knockout of the year. I think it's the leader right now. The Lucas body shot was awesome.
That was awesome.
It's not the same level. Joshua is going to be in that mix, and the Robeisy Ramirez uppercut is going to be in there too. So the fact that to get it on ESPN, to get it for free, it was on a reasonable hour. I think a lot of fans tuned in. To have you on the call from our perspective was pretty damn cool. Angelo Leo with a huge knockout win upsets the apple cart at 126. Now he's a player now at 126, and I think he can give anyone hell.
Yes.
He can fight Carrington. You would know better than me. Does he have options with Top Rank?
I do not know the details of that, honestly. I would assume yes, almost definitely, which isn't a bad thing, I think, for Leo because you've got the fight, you got the champions in that weight class, so he's gonna have an opportunity. I mean, I'm sorry, in that promotional company, so under that banner. So I would assume yes. So I would assume we potentially going back to Albuquerque.
Yeah,
I hope I'm on the call again for that one.
They got to bring you back for that. Luis Alberto Lopez was consensus number one featherweight. He upsets him. He has fights inside Top Rank with.
Was he your number one, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, how do you not have a number one? Yeah. I mean, it's a division that we talked about last week that 1 to 10 is very competitive. There isn't like a superstar in it, but like this guy has established himself as number one. I mean, he had so many big wins. That's why I also felt like he was a little due for a loss with everything that he was going through. Just the gauntlet that he's been on, and the other intangibles like the fighting on the road and all that. But just inside of the Top Rank, you have Rafael Espinosa, you have Robeisy Ramirez. Angelo Leo is now a champion there as well. Bruce Carrington, I know, wants a big shot too. So there are some options for him inside Top Rank to get another big shot. And like him, you have to push him into the top 3. He can give anyone hell with the way that he fights. It's just like he's in your face. He throws everything with mean intentions. He's got a great chin because he did take some big shots. And I don't know how did you have it scored heading into that? Because I wasn't scoring the fight. I know that Kriegel had it close. I knew it was close. Like I knew it could have been even. You could have had Leo up by 1. You could have had Lopez up by 1.
Yeah, I wasn't scoring it, obviously, because I was calling it live. I think Kriegel actually had Lopez up by a round at that point because he did come back stronger towards the middle rounds. I mean, I thought Leo looked fantastic right away. I thought even in the first round he was landing some massive right hands, and the body work was there all night long as well. But I could have seen that it was a 1-point fight either way. In either direction, because it was definitely close, but the momentum was 100% Leo. It looked like he was really coming on, and was able to. Dude, you can't land that many right hands. I don't care how good your chin is. You can't get hit that much. And Lopez was getting hit clean a lot. And other than the right uppercut, there was no consistent weapon that was landing on Leo. Leo took that really well though, because that's his best punch. That's his Suzy Q moneymaker. When he cracks you with that uppercut, Lopez, he puts guys down, and he's like a highlight reel knockout guy. So Leo definitely showed a fantastic chin. But yeah, super close fight up until the stop.
Unbelievable stuff. That's why we watch, to get the knockout of the year and get the fight of the year over on DAZN pretty much in the same hour.
Dude, that's really tough to be calling a fight and then looking at your phone and people are telling you like, "Yo, Ortiz went down twice." I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm trying to be locked in here, but I'm hearing about this other great fight that I'm very interested in."
Yeah, I know. Like I didn't want to distract you, and because I know you were on State of the Boxing, came on like right when the fight with Ortiz was just starting. And I wanted to text you, be like, "Yo, Ortiz, this is a firefight," but I didn't want to distract you. One thing at a time, because same thing. I've been calling fights where there's some bigger fights going on at the same time, or big fights going on at the same time, and you're just so laser focused on where you're at and what you're doing, you can't even fathom thinking about a whole nother fight.
You'd be surprised, Dan. Wait till you get more experience. You're going to be able to multitask. I certainly do. I do a lot. I do a lot of other things.
You could pull up the Zone on your phone and watch it.
That would have been a bad idea.
Right. Don't have them seeing that. You don't want that. Any last thoughts on Leo? Potentially, like if he could keep winning, like I always say, how Inoue is just like floating over this division. He just looks so much bigger than Inoue, and like he's a big dude, Leo. He definitely fills out after the weigh-in, but Inoue is also lurking over this division. It's just fun. It's just fun at featherweight to have a new player and someone like Angelo Leo, who kind of overcame some things, like you said, like managerial disputes, promotional disputes. Had that loss to Stephen Fulton on Showbox, I want to say, in 2021, where it's just like a shame. Like sometimes guys are just like written off. Like I've heard all about Leo. I remember Leo Fulton was like a 50-50 fight. And the winner.
Well, he beat Tremaine Williams. He was brought on. I mean, he was basically brought on as an opponent for Tremaine Williams from PBC. He gets the win, becomes world champion, and then he gets brought in as an opponent for Fulton. And then he loses
right, and then he fights Fulton, and he loses that. But heading into that fight, they were building both of these guys up. Like whoever wins this is going to take that next step. Obviously,
they were right.
Won. And he took that next step, Fulton, and he went on to some really big wins and gets the Inoue fight. But for the other side of it is a guy that, he loses the fight, and then he goes into relative obscurity, has to fight his way back. I don't know the exact details, but he puts together a string of wins. The Baez win, the Plania win, these are all nice wins. These are all good wins. He signs with ProBox, and he gets himself back in position, and then he scores a massive upset in a knockout at home. That's a really nice story, and
it's a dream. It's a dream come true, man. That's a dream come true.
What was he like afterwards?
I talked to him afterwards. I mean, he's just so even keeled and cool and thankful. Like he's just just a very he's got his baby and his lady and just a very just a super humble young man. I mean, really, he wasn't extra emotive or anything. He was just like. I mean, he was just really happy. I DM'd with him a little bit afterwards, or yesterday rather, just to tell him I was really proud of what he was able to do, and he's just a super humble guy.
Awesome. That it was what was going on in ESPN. Vito Milnecki also had a big knockout win. Undercard was solid. He looked good. I wasn't with the best opponent, but I'm sure they're going to start building him up and have him fight in New York on that. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him on that September card. That Michaela Mayer, Bruce Carrington one, or some East Coast fights coming up. So that's what happened over on ESPN. Over to Las Vegas and the Zone shortly after the KO of the year was the Fight of the Year candidate. I still think this is probably at the top. Vergil Ortiz defeats Serhii Bohachuk. Very close fight. One judge had it a draw. Two other judges had it 114-112 for Ortiz, ultimately giving him the majority decision win. Close fight. I thought the right man won. Ortiz goes down in the first round on it would look like a push. Referee calls it a push or a slip. They take 8 rounds, or 6 or 7 rounds to.
No, I think it was like 4 or 5. It was like 4 or 5. Yeah, because I remember watching that. I remember I was watching us. I'm like. What are we doing? We're not counting knockdowns now? Because immediately I'm like, that's a knockdown. First round, I'm like, that's a knockdown.
They get it right. But there's still some major issues with the replay system in boxing. Like, they got it right ultimately. But why was it not fixed like right away? Like, why wasn't in the second round this looked at and then switched around? Like every other sport has replay, and every other sport gets it. They figure it out. They settle it right then and there.
I would be really interested to see how that went about. Like. Because it wasn't right away, did someone have to complain and be like, "Hey, can we?" Like, I would love to know how that went down behind
We've
the
seen
scenes.
that
You know?
before. We've seen
Yeah.
corners. We've seen corners go over to the replay thing. It's really really janky. Like we've
But
seen.
Dan, that's terrible to do. Like you
Horrible.
got a guy fighting. You should be all of your energy should be in the corner, not having to have to go and talk to officials. It's crazy.
It's a joke. Like it's only in boxing can you have this much unorganization and this much disarray around something that should be so cut and dry. Like there should be someone. I remember one time too, like the broadcast. Who was it? Kriegel, I think, went over and was like, "Hey, you should really take a look at that." Like the broadcast was talking about a moment that happened earlier in the fight and kind of persuading the commission and persuading the one guy that handles the replay. Like, come on, you have one job, whatever. So that happened early in the fight. Vergil goes down. And they ultimately rule it a knockdown. It goes down again with a flash knockdown later on in the fight. So that's why the scorecards were kind of all over the place.
Hard fight, not an easy fight to score. I had to literally go back. I had to rewatch rounds to go back to get like my proper score.
Right, it has some of like the best. It was the best of boxing, and it has some of the worst of boxing when it comes to like how fans perceive close fights. Robbery gets thrown around was not a robbery. Look at Vergil Ortiz's face compared to Bohachuk's face. That is not how you score a fight. That's ridiculous. Like, so if you say, how can Vergil Ortiz win if he went down twice and look at his face? Like, come on, man. Like, I know that's not the consensus of fans, but it was a lot what like I was dealing with listening to the initial reactions, as I always do on social media. But you factor in 2 knockdowns, which makes things really hard to score. But if you just also take away that and you just look at what Vergil Ortiz did inside that ring, the right man won. He landed more power shots. He was hurting Bohachuk throughout the fight. He did great body work too, which, Bohachuk landed some good shots, but Ortiz's body work and his consistency.
That little shuttle punch he kept throwing, that little shuttle punch like right through the solar plexus that he kept throwing with that lead hand, that was a really good weapon that I think is really hard to people not noticing. You know, I'm glad you mentioned that body work.
Yeah, the body work and just the consistent work from Ortiz was what won him the fight. So I think Ortiz won. Are you in agreement there?
Yeah. I had it very close. I had Ortiz winning more rounds. Obviously, the knockdowns were important, but I think the late rush, 11 and 12 from Ortiz were huge. And then even the second knockdown, I had him making that an even round because I thought he came back so strong. He went down. He argued it, but it was a knockdown too. But like he came right back and really pushed Bohachuk the rest of that round. So I actually had that a 9-9 round. If it wasn't for that, I think Bohachuk probably wins the fight. But Ortiz he fought like a man possessed. Yeah, those knockdowns were there. Yeah, they were real. Yes, he was getting hurt. He got hurt a lot in the fight. Actually, he just was really good at hiding it, except for the 2 times he took a trip to the canvas. But yeah, no, the right man won. I think he's a more dynamic fighter. And he can box. He had a jab. When he was moving and jabbing, I was like, all right, do more of that, man. Stop trading with this guy. He's too strong.
Yeah, he can box. And early on, he was boxing, and he was showing off that jab. And I remember thinking in my mind, like, this guy can box and brawl and has that killer instinct. And,
he's a dog.
Has that dog in him. This guy's going to be really fun to watch. But he kind of veered away from that. The guy obviously loves to brawl, which is great for fans. But I just don't know what it means for him long term and what it means for him with the elite at 154. Vergil Ortiz is really good. He's a flawed fighter, but he's a fun fighter. Most flawed fighters equal fun. And Vergil Ortiz is really fun. But is he ready for Terence Crawford? Is he ready for the elite? I don't know if he is just yet. Turki gets in the ring and makes it very clear that he wants Vergil Ortiz and Terence Crawford next. I'm not sure that's the right move for Vergil Ortiz next. He should be fighting a Tim Tszyu. Winner gets Crawford. He should be fighting someone at 154. The next step up. Bohachuk is very good. Like, I'm just not exactly sure from what I saw on Saturday night if Vergil Ortiz is ready for the top elite, which is Terence Crawford at 154.
Yeah, I don't think it's time yet. I think that's it's too early of a push. I mean, listen, Ortiz has been inactive. Like he had 2 rounds in like 2.5 years. Yeah, he just finally got his first distance fight. He went 12 rounds with a really tough guy in a really tough fight that he had to really pull out. But yeah, I agree with you, Dan. I think there's other work for him to do than to go right for the top dog in the sport. It's the kind of fight that I'm sure that he's gonna welcome. One, it's gonna be a big payday. 2, it's a chance to fight a legend. But I think business wise, it's not the best move.
It's not, but this is what we're going to get with Turkey. Like, he was sponsoring this card.
And De La Hoya. De La Hoya is always like, yeah, okay, money, let's go.
Well, do you think De La Hoya wants this? Because the one thing with De La Hoya is that, and Golden Boy, is that they don't have the luxury of having a giant roster. They have to be very, very strategic with how they move their fighters. They did with Ryan Garcia. They did not want him to step into the ring with Jonathan Davis that early. They did not want him to do the rehydration calls and all that. But ultimately, they made that fight for Ryan Garcia. Like, they don't have that many stars. It's Ryan. It's Vergil Ortiz. Am I missing some others?
But just like the Ryan Garcia Davis situation, listen, that's so much money. Like, that's one of those opportunities, one of those fights that's really hard to pass up, and it's life-changing money, game-changing money. Ryan came out of that actually, he got beat up, he disappeared for a while, but then he comes back and he gets the big fight with Haney. So it's kind of worked out for him. And we are in an era now where you don't have to be undefeated. But there is certain game-changing money. It's like me in the Pacquiao fight. Was that the best move for me to come off of a broken orbital 4 months later and fight Manny Pacquiao? No, I wasn't ready. It was my 20th pro fight. But the money, and the opportunity. So it's tough.
Vergil. Especially with Vergil, who's had health issues, who has had his career stalled so many times. And you can just tell that he's chomping at the bit. He is engaging with Ryan Garcia on social media a few months ago because he sees the potential dollar signs there. Every fighter is in the game to make as much money as they possibly can. And when you're this close to making that game-changing money, and right now Turkey and Crawford represent the game-changing money at 154, I get it. I understand that. Ryan Garcia is not the same as Vergil Ortiz. Ryan Garcia is in a whole other stratosphere in terms of star power. Yeah. But my point being, Oscar, I'm not 100% sure Oscar wants to put Vergil in there with Terence Crawford.
I think he even said he doesn't want to, but it's whether want to and is it going to happen are two different things. Because when you got Turkey throwing around the money he has, and also Crawford we're seeing the last of Crawford. He might never step in the ring again. That's a real possibility from what he's been saying. So it's just like, it's timing, man. Because we don't know how long this Turkey money is going to be around. You don't know how long Crawford's going to be around. So that's what pushes me to think that the fight actually might happen. I kind of hope not. I'd rather see Vergil do what you're saying. But, we'll see.
Well, Turkey has said that they're not working with Zoo. Zoo is on his...
they didn't come back from that? They didn't figure that out? I thought they figured out the communication situation.
No, he got interviewed on Saturday night, Turkey, and he was much more media friendly for this card than he was at the LA one. The LA one, he showed up super late. He only did an interview with DAZN where he kind of brought up the Canelo stuff. With this one, he was doing interviews with Fight Hub. He was doing interviews with all the digital media that were in there. And they put a phone in his face, and they, with Zoo, they brought up Zoo, and he said, he says that's that same line where it's like Zoo doesn't understand. He said the same thing with Canelo. Canelo would be wise to take this. With Zoo, he said Zoo doesn't understand. So therefore, they're not seeing eye to eye right now. I don't know what that means for the future. But Vergil Ortiz should fight like a Tim Zoo, which was supposed to happen in the LA card.
Basically this fight,
Zoo versus Ortiz, with the winner getting Crawford, that's the right escalation of things at 154. But you mix in all the belts and Fundora and that whole situation, him having two belts, Spence getting in the mix, it's really, really complicated. I'm going to be dead honest with you. I haven't taken a lot of time to figure out all the clauses and who's going to command what and who's going to activate what clause. And I like to be up to our listeners to tell me, because I don't know what's going on with Fundora if he's going to fight Spence, because there's some type of clause out there where Fundora can call out Crawford's bluff and Fundora could potentially fight Crawford. After the fight, Vergil Ortiz didn't say Terence Crawford. He said, I want to fight Spence or Fundora. Mm-hmm. So that's where his mind is at. He just wants big fights, Vergil Ortiz, and I'm all for it. He is top five, awesome. One of the most exciting fighters to watch. He just has that it factor. Mm-hmm. I just don't know how long it's going to last. I'm curious your thoughts on it, his specific style. He gets tagged a lot. He was never really hurt in that fight, but going down twice, that's something you can't just sneeze at. He did go down in that fight, and he has been wobbled in the past. I'm not exactly sure if he can hang with the guys at 154. Does he make really fun fights? Yes. But what are your long-term thoughts on Vergil Ortiz after seeing him hit the toughest fight of his career?
Well, this is his first fight at 54, and he fought a very big, strong 54-pounder. I think for him to fight, I think he's going to have to change his style. I'll put it that way. The way he was able to blast through guys at 147, he was just way too big for them. He's very explosive. He's very quick. He's got great technique. He's aggressive. He's got that mentality. But at 47, yeah, he's been hit. Yeah, but I don't think he cared about getting hit there. Now he does. You said he didn't get hurt. It's like, I thought he got hurt a lot. I think he got wrong a bunch of times. He just is a dog. Like you
meant like
see,
when on those knockdowns, he got up pretty much right away.
No, but I think he was actually feeling a lot of those punches throughout the night.
Definitely.
I can see, I could see him kind of like having those little ticks when you get hit with a shot that you don't like. And he would just kind of come right back because that's his mentality. But yeah, you can't fight everybody like that. You can't fight Crawford like that. Even at 54, Crawford, he hits hard enough, and his punch, selection and precision are still fantastic. So that's a really dangerous fight if you're getting hit with these kinds of shots. I think he's going to have to box more. He's going to have to really, get on his toes and get that lead hand going. He's going to have to Oscar De La Hoya a bit. He's got the perfect promoter. That guy's style back in the day. Yes, he's a big puncher. Yes, he's a great left hook. But De La Hoya at his best was on his toes and jabbing. He's a finisher for sure, but he had great, amazing boxing ability. I think Vergil can do that as well, and he's going to need to because he's not going to be able to just walk through and mow guys down like he did at 47.
Well, he just learned that too. Like his KO streak comes to an end. Crawford's little KO streak came to an end. He definitely gonna have to change up his style, but will he? Is interesting because he's got Robert Garcia with him. He's got one of the best trainers in the world. Who I thought had a really good night. They went to him in the corner, and he was just being very honest and with his assessment of how that fight was going. And like, we can't just take everybody out. We have to,
He's great on the mic in between rounds. Robert.
He's awesome. Like that guy really drops the F-bombs like they're nothing, and he gets it. Robert Garcia gets the media.
He's a fighter. He's a world champion. Like he's right. Been in there with top dogs. He had a bunch of fighters on the top rank card as well. Delgado's his guy, and he had to obviously go with his number one guy Vergil, but there was a whole slew of Robert Garcia fighters on the undercard at
He's got that academy, right, in Oxnard?
Yeah. Yeah, I did 4 camps there. That's where I was sparring with Maidana and Bam Bam Rios. Great camp again. Robert's a fantastic coach.
Yeah, he's one of the best. He just churns out fighters, churns out champions, and Vergil's one of his guys right now. But it's also so funny. Me, bro. I'm deep in the weeds of social media. I love interacting with the listeners. Love interacting with the fans. I'll get in there and mix it up. After Crawford's fight, all anyone wanted to say is this guy isn't what everyone thinks he is. He doesn't get the win over Madrimov. Oh, he gets the win over Madrimov, doesn't get the stoppage. So I'm hearing all week after Crawford wins is Vergil Ortiz can stop Crawford. Vergil Ortiz can beat Crawford. Tim Tszyu can beat Crawford. These young guys can hang with Crawford and beat him. Like, I've got a lot of those messages. It wasn't just one. It wasn't just like a stray, fan out there with no profile picture being a troll. I heard a lot of fans say that they believe that Terence Crawford was food for Vergil Ortiz. So then Vergil's KO streak comes to an end. There's a lot of people that believe Vergil Ortiz lost that fight to Bohachuk, believe that he did not look that great or showed some flaws. Now they switch it up, and they believe that Vergil Ortiz would get his ass handed to him by Crawford. This is fandom. I understand how fandom works. It's recency bias. But being in the middle of it, like I am, is very, very interesting to watch. It changes week to week. If you listen to our show, we said last week that I still believe Terence Crawford is the cream of the crop at 154, even against these young guns, against Vergil, against Fundora, against Tszyu. I just believe he's got that, still has enough left in the tank. But it's just funny to watch that all play out with Vergil Ortiz, who heading into this fight, everyone thought, this guy's just going to mow through everyone. Has a tough fight with Bohachuk. Now suddenly he's going to get stopped by Crawford in 6 rounds. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked by that outcome. I wouldn't be shocked if Crawford can figure out Ortiz. I think he's tailor-made. Something we talked about last week too. I think Ortiz is tailor-made for Terence Crawford. The way if he fights that way he fought against Bohachuk, just come forward. I mean, Crawford will figure that out in 5-6 rounds.
Yeah, that's been kind of the thought process of the Vergil Ortiz fight for any boxing insiders in terms of that Crawford fight. And obviously the Twitter sphere is not boxing insiders. They're not people who really know the sport, which is why they flip-flop so fast. But And this is why, young fighters, don't waste your time on Twitter. It's not good for your brain. It's not good for your training. Focus on
Shakur Stevenson.
Focus on getting the work done. But also, in terms of their makeup, and that's one of the reasons why I don't love that fight. I think Vergil needs to be more active. And yeah, he did show some flaws Saturday night, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he has not been active at the world-class level in years. And even at 47, I'm like, who did he really fight at 47 that was world-class? Bohachuk's good, really good. And I think that's another...
Mo Hooker at the time.
Yeah, Mo Hooker, but even him, by the time he got Mo, wrong weight class, and just not the same...
Not elite.
Not the same, yes, they're not elite level, championship level guys. This is his first elite championship level guy, and it's his first guy at real 154 pounder. So there was a lot against him in terms of how his performance was going to look. And yes, there's going to be some knocks, but I think he just needs to be more active. Inactivity plagues young fighters, and Vergil Ortiz is one of those guys who's been really, really snake bitten by the inactivity bug. So hopefully, this is a new phase in Ortiz's career, and he can get active.
Yeah, you can't please everyone. That's why you should stay off Twitter if you're a fighter. If you're a fan, it's great because it's so much fun to interact every week. It's like a soap opera. But if you're a fighter, and Vergil Ortiz talked about this after the fight. I don't know if you caught the post-fight. He's like, yeah, I hear the criticism. I listen. I'm a human. Like a lot of fighters pretend like they don't hear it, but I heard it. And he's definitely probably hearing it today because there were a lot of fans out there that thought he lost, and it's not a robbery. Like a 7-5 fight is not a robbery. Like I'm getting robbery. I know.
Robbery. People love that word.
I get on where they're like there isn't nuance. It's something I've talked about a lot too. It's like there's no gray area in Twitter. There's no gray area in boxing. It's either robbery or a win. Like there isn't like a such thing as a close fight. Like a 7-5 fight is a close fight. A robbery is like Holyfield Lewis, like where there's blatant corruption, like Pacquiao Horn or Pacquiao Bradley won. Like stuff like that those are robberies. Like where you can't believe your eyes what you just saw. It's just the phrasing, whatever. It's not really a huge deal, but it is part of the culture of the sport. But Turki gets in the ring, or Turki does an interview with Golden Boy host and Beto Duran and De La Hoya.
Love Beto. It's my guy.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. And Turki says, I want to make Crawford-Ortiz and Shakur-Zepeda on the same card. And Shakur comes out. They have a meeting. They took a picture together on Sunday. Turki and Shakur. That's what Turki wants to do. Like they're not working with Zoo. Crawford Canelo obviously has been shot down. So Crawford Ortiz Shakur-Zepeda doubleheader is now the latest Turki dream or the latest Turki plan. Do we get that classic doubleheader, which would be epic for fans? It would be awesome. We'll see, because not everything Turki says is coming true these days. He's getting a little bit of pushback. The more we see and hear from this guy, the more boxing fans are starting to get the bigger picture of what Turki's trying to do here. But if he makes Crawford-Ortiz and Shakur-Zepeda, that is a really nice offering.
It is. I'm very hesitant to think that's actually going to happen. But I really like the Shakur-Zepeda fight. We both do. I think we both spoke on that on our show that's the next fight to make for Shakur if he can't get a Davis fight, which obviously that's not happening anytime soon. But in terms of that whole card coming together, we'll see. A lot of moving parts. I think that's part of the reason. That's part of the issue with Turki is he doesn't understand some of the fine minutia of the sport. Which how could he? He's coming into it. He's coming into it so late. But money fixes a lot of things, but it can't make the impossible possible.
No, I could see that. It's not like it's one of these mega cards. I mean, it is, and it's not. It's like I could see it happening. I could see them throwing.
I just don't think it will.
I could see Ortiz taking this next because of kind of what you said, like the dangling that much money at him. Who knows? Like Golden Boy did accept the fight for Ryan, even though it probably wasn't the right timing. They can make that fight. The Shakur-Zepeda, I think, is a perfect fight for Shakur, perfect fight for Zepeda, and Zepeda. I picked Shakur to win that one as the co-main. I hope it happens. I hope it does. But we're seeing a lot from Turki, and I don't know if you caught this. He put out a tweet talking about. So he spent like 3 weeks in the U.S. In L.A., Vegas. I don't know where else, but he was not too thrilled with the amenities. Not too thrilled with our culture. Not too thrilled with how restaurants are run. Doesn't really like movie theaters are run down. I mean, he didn't really like say anything that wasn't exactly true. Like, yeah, like you go to a movie theater these days, it's kind of disgusting. Go to a restaurant, the service isn't as good because
Damn, when's the last time you've been to a movie theater? I've been to a movie since before the pandemic.
I'm trying to think, bro.
Yeah,
I think I saw Creed.
It's been like 5 years since I've been to a movie. I do want. There's some movies out that I want to go see actually, though, right now.
Yeah, but now you could just wait to see them on streaming.
No,
just watch them at home.
My
couch is fun going to the theater.
It is
fun going to a theater.
It's an event.
I think Creed 3, and I think I saw the Barbie movie. I'm just kind of.
I hope you went with your I hope you went with your nieces and your nephews rather than.
Oh, yeah, that's why I went with my nieces and nephews recently, and we saw the Willy Wonka movie. But that was a great experience because they have recliners.
It's so much different when you go with a kid to a kids movie. I remember I went to see Shrek back in the day. I think it was like Shrek 2 with my nephews, and it was so funny. And I don't know if people at home don't know
definitely fell asleep.
I enjoyed it. It was because especially Shrek. The Shrek movies they're made for like adults anyway. The humor is all adult. But I know people listening don't know my family. They don't know my nephews. My brother has 4 sons. And they're Algieri boys, and they're beasts. So even when they were kids, I was at the theater with them watching Shrek. I'm laughing at all the jokes, and they're literally stone faced, just watching, like looking around, like when's somebody gonna chop someone's head off with an axe or something? Yeah. we need violence. Yeah.
Yeah, but Turkey's not. He put out this long-winded tweet about how he doesn't like the U.S. culture, doesn't like how things are. Everything's run down. Everyone, tuck your chain in. Don't wear a watch if you're out in public. Just like a scathing review, which
in terms of the crime, the violence, he's absolutely right.
That's what it was. It was just like I don't disagree with
America's not a safe place anymore.
And like the overall response was like, you're technically not wrong. Like there is a lot of things like that he brought up that are probably true. Interesting to see it from like a super wealthy, guy that is some type of royalty over there. Of course, it's not going to be the same as Saudi Arabia. It's not. Of course, the conditions at a movie theater are not going to be up to par with what he says. But I'm just like, it's just interesting. Like, why exactly is he saying all that? Like, there's got to be a motive behind everything. Is it because you don't want to do another show in the U.S.? Is everything getting pushed to Saudi Arabia now?
Planting traps for why he's going back,
right? Because the whole thing was.
Well, I think a lot of it. I think a lot of him even coming here was based on the fact that not everyone, but a lot of people, like myself and ProBox TV included, which is why he reached out to us, was that we were saying that it was too much dead air on the shows because there's no culture, fight culture there. The fan, the arenas are just very sterile. And he literally came out and was like, "Well, you gotta come see a fight. Then you gotta come to a fight." They invited us out for the Usyk Fury 2 fight, so we could get the experience. And then he came out here and he wanted us to come to that as well. So it's I think he definitely listens to the media and what's going on out there. So I think maybe that's just a clapback to be like, "Oh, our shows are sterile." Well, your country's trash.
Well, yeah, I know. It could be that. I hope he is listening to some of the criticisms. If he is, then I've Eric Raskin, a friend of ours, he wrote a very interesting article for Boxing.
Yeah, long
about.
One.
It was pretty long. Like it was really interesting because it was basically saying like these super cards aren't as great as everyone makes them out to be. There's fixes for them. It's not the end all be all. They aren't just great and they are above criticism. Basically, what Raskin said is like, why not? It doesn't need to be 6 fights. Like, why not 3 on free or whatever, regular DAZN or regular Amazon or regular whatever, and then have 3 on the pay-per-view portion or 4 on the pay-per-view portion. Like, switch it up. Put a heavyweight fight. Don't have to put back-to-back heavyweight fights because you could get what happened on 2 weeks ago, where the Bacoli-Anderson fight was thrilling, and then you follow up with another heavyweight fight, and it's Ruiz and Jerome Miller kind of just Rock'em Sock'em Robots in slow motion. There are fixes, and there's too much time in between. You don't need the concerts. So maybe he will listen. I don't know. We'll see. But that tweet was interesting because we're starting to learn more and more about this guy. We really are. Like, he is doing more interviews. The Canelo beef was crazy. So it's not just like, all right, everyone's going to get in line and take this man's money and take their regime's money, and everyone's just getting in. Like, we're seeing some pushback from the boxing world because this is how the boxing world is. Like, it's not going to be just one guy. And we were curious about this like 3-4 months ago, if this would be just one guy and everyone falling in line. But then we're kind of seeing what boxing has been for the last 100 years. It's an open market where Canelo can say no, or no, not right now. In a way, now Zoo. Who's the other fighter? That's not really Gervonta Davis. So it's not like he's the end all be all. I still think he's doing great things, but we're seeing some pushback. We're seeing boxing kind of push back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And those guys that you mentioned, the ones that are not participating, they don't need to. They don't need extra. They don't, not that everyone needs extra money, but they don't need someone else to make the money. And Canelo said that. He's like, I don't need this guy. I make $30 million to fight Berlanga. Like, he doesn't need paydays. But Davis, another guy who makes a ton of money. Like, he's doing just fine. And he's another guy, up until recently, wasn't fighting top-notch guys either. And he was fighting guys. And that was one of the big criticisms on Davis. But he's making a ton of money doing it. I'm not knocking any of these guys. If you can make $30 million and fight, Munguia or Berlanga, like, yeah, granted, we want you to fight those top guys, but I get it. I get it as a human being, as a man, as a fighter. Be like, so these guys, yeah, there's a certain pay grade where you don't have to get in line and kiss the ring, and we're seeing that. The pushback is only coming from the tip top guys who have their own economy circling around them. Canelo's an economy, like he's his own economy. He has his own orbit. So he doesn't need to do that. And Inoue is becoming that. Too. Absolutely. Inoue is that way as well, becoming that way very, very quickly. He has his own economy. He's bringing all the fighters come to him because that's where they get paid. And I've heard from very good sources the money is crazy over there. So in Japan, that is. So even the fighters that are going there to fight him, they're happy to travel. They have no problem going over there because he has his own economy and his own orbit. So those types of guys can push back. Listen, everybody else. If I was still fighting, I would be looking for Turkey money. I wouldn't be saying no.
Of course. I don't fault anyone. I don't fault any of these fighters. Like Shakur Stevenson, met with him. I don't fault any fighter that would get in line and try to get that money because you got to get it any way you can in this business. It is not a traditional business. It is not a traditional sport. It's every man for themselves. So if someone comes along and they're the money man, you go with them. Al Heyman was the money man in 2015 with all that money. You could find a way. I
made a bunch of Al Heyman money. I jumped on that train. I made a bunch of money with Al Heyman fights.
Go where the money is. It's a no-brainer. But like we said, like we're gonna. It's all playing out in front of our eyes, and I'm interested to see how the rest of the year goes because September he has the big Joshua versus Dubois card. That is
that's an exciting fight. That's an exciting fight, man. I can't wait till we really start getting into that one.
Yeah, that's quickly approaching. It's a week after Canelo versus Berlanga. So we got Inoue a couple days before Crawford.
Inoue is the 3rd, right? September 3rd?
Yeah. He's going to wash this Donaghy guy. I was watching
TJ's a cool dude, and he's a tough guy, but yeah, that's a mismatch.
Yeah, so Inoue, Canelo, Joshua in the span of 3 weeks. That's always fun. October, another Riyadh season card is the Better BF B-Ball, which is another big one if it happens. And then after that, there's Fury versus Usyk rematch, which I'm seeing. I think today's Fury's birthday, and Fury's talking about how boxing is.
Happy birthday, Tyson!
Happy birthday, Tyson Fury. He's talking about how boxing is the most addicting drug that he's ever dealt with in terms of I can't get away from it. I don't know if that fight happens in December. I don't know any of the I haven't heard much on that, but that's supposed to happen in December. But those are the types of fights that Turkey has been making, which is great. Joshua Dubois, thank you. Better BF Bivol, yes. Fury Usyk. what's going to happen with some of these other movements that he's trying to make, these other plans he has, like the Crawford plans, the Vergil Ortiz plans, linking up with Top Rank, linking up with Golden Boy. Like those are going to be a little more. Those are going to be a little more difficult. Like he can make the Fury Usyk all day. He could get Joshua on board. You know, he could work with Matchroom and.
Well, Eddie's full steam ahead. So anything, right. any fighter that Eddie has, Turki has.
They are in bed together. There's no doubt.
Yes.
Like the three of them, Turki, Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, are all very much in lockstep, working with each other. It's how these other, the Top Rank and the Golden Boy.
I think the American-based promotions are going to be a lot more difficult to deal with.
Right. Exactly. That's what I want to see play out. Do we see Shakur-Zepeda? Do we see who's next for Crawford?
I'd like to see another 5-on-5. That was fun.
I think they're talking about doing another one of those, and that's another thing too. Like those are fun too. Like so, it's a mixed bag. Like you can't complain about Dubois, Joshua, and Fury Usyk 2 or Fury Usyk 1 getting made with the help of Turki, or better BF Bivol if that comes off. Like these are huge fights, and they're getting made. They're getting over the finish line with Turki's help. Like so, you got to on one hand say, "Wow, this is amazing. We're getting the tip top, the 1% fights happening." But it's now I want to see how it plays out with some of the other guys, and I want to see how it plays out.
It's funny because like it's just like the boxing fans. As soon as there's a little pushback, it's like don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, guys. Yeah. We're making great fights. Everyone's happy about what Turki is doing in terms of what is happening for the sport of boxing. But the mega cards aren't done could be done better. That's basically our gripe. And that's what Eric Raskin wrote this big article. Doesn't mean we're throwing out Turki. We don't want Turki money. We don't want him to make these fights. He's doing amazing things for our sport, and he's given us so much to watch, so much to enjoy. And the fighters are making money. We're seeing matchups that literally couldn't get made, quote unquote, but now they're being made. So there's so many good, positive things that Turki's doing, and what his plans are for the sport. You know, but there's starting to be some pushback and some gripes. It doesn't mean we don't like what Turki's doing.
No, I saw this coming. Like I saw it coming. I'm not going to get upset over a tweet saying that the local cinema in LA wasn't up to snuff. Like
it's also guys. It's also LA. Sorry, LA. Sorry, California people. LA has gone down the tubes. So
that's so funny because I wonder if he was talking about this. There was a movie theater right next to the hotel I was staying at in LA, and it was really disgusting. Like I was just checking it out as I walked past, go get coffee. I wonder if he like moseyed in there to try to watch a movie and was like, what the hell is this?
What's wrong with these people? What are these savages?
These seats haven't been cleaned in years. I'm bringing all my fights back to Saudi. It is an interesting time in the world of
I don't know. I kind of like a dirty old cinema. I'm not going to lie. Reminds me of being a kid.
Yeah, bro. Some of them that's on Long Island were disgusting, but they've gotten so much different now. They have like recliners, and you can like really live it up. But not according to Turki. That's really it for this episode. We'll be back later in the week. You're heading back out on the road, correct?
Yeah, we got Quebec City this weekend for the Mbili Derevyanchenko fight, which is a fun one. That's in Quebec City. That could be another
fight of the year contender.
It could be. We'll see how much Serhii has left. It's tough. They just keep throwing him in with these young killers. Eventually that runs out. But I think that's going to be a good fight. Serhii always puts up a stiff test for these guys. I've heard really good things about Quebec City, going down to Old Town Quebec. Any listeners who have any suggestions for me, please shoot the DMs, get in the DMs.
It could be a little more fun than Albuquerque. No offense to Albuquerque.
Yeah, guys. I put it out there. I asked people like, "Hey, what do you do in Albuquerque?" My three top suggestions. Number one, crystal meth, obviously because of Breaking Bad. Number two, try not to get your car stolen. That was another
That's
good
not
one.
An activity, guys.
No, it's not an activity, but you have to actively be aware of that. So it becomes an activity. Grand larceny. And then chiles. Green, red chiles.
Chilies.
Yep, chiles.
Like the chain.
No, like the food. No, not like the chain, like the pepper. Like they make like a sauce, and it's delicious. You put it on absolutely everything. On my eggs in the morning. So that was really nice. But it's a beautiful country, man. Beautiful, like scape
city.
The background. I wish I had time to go hiking. Apparently, it's a really good hiking place.
I would like to check it out. Like it would only be. I would only probably go there for a fight. Like I wouldn't ever on my own.
No,
I know a lot
no,
of
it's
people go
not
there.
a destination. It's not a destination.
No, I know a lot of people go there to see the Breaking Bad house, like the real diehards.
The crew were thinking about taking a trip over there and getting a photo op, but decided not to. It's also
Did
super
you watch
hot.
Breaking Bad?
I did. Awesome show.
Because they kind of made New Mexico like almost look like this interesting place.
It is an interesting place, but it's like it's like
It
you're
was
going
like
back
a character
in time.
on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going back in time when you're there. Like even the arena that we were in for the fight, like it looked like it had not been updated in legitimately 40 years. It looked like
Turkey would not
1980.
like that arena.
It was 1980 in there. It was cool, but they had pictures. There was Johnny Tapia photos in the Hall of Fame. It was awesome. It was really, really.
Yeah, he's
cool.
a legend. He's a
Yeah,
legend
I mean,
over there.
Johnny, and Danny Romero. That battle for Albuquerque fight's one of my favorite fights of all time.
All right, so we'll preview big Quebec card. We'll get some voicemails next episode. We haven't done one of those in a while. They're starting to rack up. Got a few in there. Some guy made a jingle for us too, Chris. I'll play that. On the next episode. He made a few.
Yes.
This guy, he emailed me some jingles for the show, which I thought was amazing. Really, really cool.
We should end the shows with the jingles. we could add that to it.
It's very cool. I got an email from a listener that wanted to add his touch to the show. That is it, my friends. We'll be back later in the week. Protect yourselves at all times. Keep your hands up at all times. Stay on those DMs unless you have some Quebec things to do. Chris Algieri.